Bienvenue dans Moment Mode. On est enfin rendu à la saison 2. On attendait ce moment avec impatience. Donc, venez plonger avec nous dans l'univers de la mode puis en découvrir un peu plus sur tous ces aspects. Installez-vous confortablement, préparez-vous à aller courir ou à faire votre petite marche de la journée. C'est l'heure de votre moment mode, votre moment à vous. Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue dans notre nouvel épisode du podcast Moment Mode. Aujourd'hui, on va parler de mode, mais surtout de systèmes, de communauté et de changement. La mode est souvent perçue comme superficielle, mais elle a pourtant toujours été un outil puissant d'expression, de résistance et de transformation sociale. Pour en parler, je reçois Alicia Aikens, coordonnatrice du CCT chez Fashion Takes Action, un organisme canadien qui œuvre à rendre l'industrie de la mode plus éthique, durable et responsable. Alicia, elle évolue depuis près de 10 ans dans le milieu de la durabilité environnementale et sociale. Elle est aussi cofondatrice de Solacène. On va pouvoir en parler un petit peu plus avec elle pendant le podcast. C'est un projet multidisciplinaire qui mêle le slow fashion, la création de contenu et la mobilisation communautaire, avec bien sûr l'envie de réimaginer un futur à la fois durable, sensible et profondément humain. Dans cet épisode, on va donc parler du rôle réel de Fashion Takes Action, de la mode comme levier de changement, de l'importance de la créativité dans les mouvements sociaux et surtout de comment avancer sans tomber dans la culpabilité ou le découragement. Donc, bonne écoute! Coucou Alicia!
Salut Maria, ça va?
Ça va bien et toi?
Ça va bien, oui.
Donc aujourd'hui, pour tout le monde, on est en vidéo Zoom. Alicia est en Europe en ce moment et on va poser aussi quelques petites questions en anglais pour être multilingue. Alors, préparez-vous à être bilingue aujourd'hui. So before we start the interview, we have a little tradition where we describe our looks. So would you describe your look today?
Sure. Yeah, I guess it's hard on Zoom, but I am wearing, I guess, this all wool ensemble. So it's just like an all black wool jumper. And then I have these really fun pants on. Let me see if I can stand up.
Yes.
I don't even know if it's going to be empty, but like, they're like these really big, like coutlet pants. And I love them. They're also wool, like vintage from the 70s. I got them in Strasbourg. Yeah, love it.
Yes,
like
I love this style. And it seems really comfortable too, because it's really large at the...
Perfect for working from home. Yeah.
Exact. Pour moi, je porte aujourd'hui des jeans un peu baggy et vraiment un t-shirt gris très simple, aussi très confortable.
Yeah,
donc,
we're both very like simple.
Exact. We love that. Pas de bijoux, vraiment easy peasy.
Ouais.
So, we're going to start the little questions. Can you introduce yourself and tell us about your role at Fashion Takes Action?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Alicia, and I am the CCTC coordinator at Fashion Takes Action. So at FTA, we have a few different initiatives. There's My Clothes, My World, there's the remote events, and then there's the CCTC, which is the Canadian Circular Textiles Consortium. And this is a group of 100, and it just like keeps growing by the day. I think we're almost at like 140 stakeholders who are all working together to advance circular textiles in Canada.
Wow.
A little bit about myself, I guess. As you said, I'm traveling. So I'm in the middle, like I think right in the middle of a year traveling abroad with my husband. But normally we live in Montreal. We're like plateau girlies to the core. So
yeah.
Excited to also be back there in a few months. But we're traveling for a bit just to see a bit of the world. And we are the co-founders of Solacene, which is like an artist collective trying to promote community as a form of resistance for the current system that we're in. So that's also evolving as we're traveling. We're going to kind of relaunch it once we're back in Montreal. I also run a slow fashion brand, which is on hiatus as we're traveling because unfortunately didn't want to bring my sewing machine with me, lug it from place to place every week. I was like, that seems
it's pretty heavy. So yeah. Better like that.
Exactly. So it's on pause, but yeah. Also, that's going to be resuming once back in Montreal. So I kind of have worked in all different elements of the fashion industry from being hands-on to the activism side that I'm doing now with FTA.
And it's really nice because le fait que tu fais plusieurs branches, so you're a designer, tu as aussi une branche un peu plus de conseil. Je pense que ça fait que tu as vraiment une belle vision de c'est quoi la mode, puis tu peux vraiment mieux conseiller après parce que tu sais exactement c'est quoi tous les éléments de la
Yeah.
mode. Donc, c'est super inspirant de te
Oh,
voir faire tout
merci.
ça, là, c'est rare. And
Yeah.
I don't think you told what's the name of your fashion brand?
It's also Solacene.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's all kind of under the same umbrella. It's evolved. It was a podcast for like 6 years. And then we're just kind of evolving into these other projects because we got a little bit tired of working online. So we just wanted to be very local and tactile and like hands-on with the work.
Yeah, I really understand. So before
Ooh.
working there, what was your relationship with fashion and what did you do before fashion?
My relationship to fashion before working at FTA, it was a very slow process because I was very just like hippie, kind of wore what I want as a child, but I always was thrifting. It was just kind of a way of life with my family. And then I went to university with the intention of studying sciences, but I also wanted to study sustainability. But after my first course, like on sustainability, I was like, no, this is a big issue. I need to switch into this. So I switched into sustainability and studied that, not necessarily through a fashion lens, but it's very applicable to the fashion world. I think I'll get a bit more into it later as well, but I just think fashion is a great gateway into sustainability for people. So I've always kind of used it as a tool for communicating. In 2018, I started the environmental podcast, which was like the proto Solacene project, where my goal was to make sustainability accessible to people through stories and art and relating it to their daily lives. And then from there, we started Solacene, which was a podcast where we imagined a future that was beautiful, sustainable, tactile was kind of the mission. So each week we would dive into a different element of this ideal society and talk about perhaps the education system, the politics, and then one day we were like, let's talk about fashion and the ideal future. And we did a whole semester on this, so like 3 months. And then at the end of it, I was like, we should start a fashion line. So it just kind of kept spiraling. But that's kind of how I got into sustainability. And then once I started being in that world, I was volunteering with different sustainability groups. And that's what led me to Fashion Takes Action finally. And I think all of those different, more grassroots approach is kind of what I've enjoyed bringing to the group because a lot of my peers at FTA are from the industry, like from the big brands. So it's kind of interesting for us to collaborate on these projects to have both the small business and the bigger scale perspective coming together.
Wow. And is your podcast still on like platforms like Spotify or?
Yeah, I think it's mainly on YouTube. We like did videos. I don't know if it's still on like the platforms because I think you have to pay to keep it up there. And we were like,
no,
over that.
Well,
you can check it out on YouTube.
Perfect. I'll do that. That's gonna be my night tonight. I'll listen to that.
Yeah.
And could you, if we go back to what you do, what does a normal day look for you?
Good question. So the role that I'm in as the coordinator, it's a lot of interviews and meetings because the Circular Textile Consortium is very founded on community and collaboration. So we have these, kind of break it down, I guess. There's the Futures Framework, which is our overarching driving force of the consortium at the moment. And our goal is to make a circular textile playbook for Canada. Ooh. For this project, we're doing interviews with all different stakeholders, from government to brands to citizens, getting their input on all of these different pillars of the Futures Framework. So some of the pillars would be circular design, policy, citizen awareness. And then for each of these 10 pillars, we are then going to build out this framework. So it's a lot of collaboration and interviewing people to get their input. And then additionally, from all of these interviews were born projects. So we're doing a bunch of different projects as well. And then members of the consortium are a part of the project. So we work together to shape. For example, we just published a circular design toolkit for brands to use if they're interested in implementing more circular design into their practices. So it's just a lot of meetings in the day-to-day. But then additionally, I'm doing a lot of like research synthesis. So with all of our partners, we have a lot of great research and data that comes into the consortium. And then we are publishing these kind of different reports and toolkits and guidelines. So that's another part of my work, is kind of the behind the scenes working on these tools as well.
Wow, that's so inspiring. Ça doit être tellement motivant et satisfaisant de publier ça ou de créer ça puis de se dire, hey, je vais réussir à aider les gens et à faire qu'il y a un changement là, dans notre domaine, dans la mode et au Canada en plus. Fait que c'est super impressionnant, ça me donne des frissons. Je trouve ça le fun de participer, c'est ça, un petit peu au changement. Fait que c'est vraiment plaisant à entendre.
It's like what keeps me going. I think if I worked for one of those, not to be shady, but like some nonprofits are very, I think, slow to move. But we're like, I feel like they're doing things every day that are really advancing and like making material progress, which I really appreciate and love.
And so you talked a little bit about your project. What part of your work feels the most meaningful in all of that?
I think there's kind of two parts. One would be the engagement with the public when we do webinars or more public-facing work, because you get to really see the people that you're impacting. But additionally, something that I've really enjoyed is the more structural changes that FTA is working to implement and inspire and like co-create with other members of the value chain. So I think it's that duality that we're doing, both the citizen kind of on the ground trying to make change that way, but also the policy and structural research that's going on. I think the fact that both of those are going on is what I love the most, because to work in one of those two silos can sometimes be very draining, and you get kind of isolated from the real on the ground, you get isolated from the systemic change. So it's nice, to bridge those two.
And I think, the people needs to do certain things to change. But I think like without politics, we cannot... Alors là, je vais le dire, mais comme peut-être que c'est une autre chose complètement, mais je pense que sans la politique, les choses ne peuvent pas réellement changer. Même si nous... C'est ça. Donc, c'est le fun d'avoir un petit peu des deux pour être vraiment complètement investi.
Yeah, exactly. And like I try to remember that all of the people in the government and in the big brands, they're just people. So like when you do the engagement with the public, like the events or awareness campaigns, you could inspire the people who are running these bigger brands or running for government.
And you talked a little bit about it, but for those who don't know Fashion Takes Action, what it is and why was it created? Because
so
at the beginning.
It was founded in 2007, so it was very early on in the sustainability movement as we know it today. And it was founded by Kelly Drennan, who's still the founding executive director. And she's just like a systems change visionary kind of person. And it was founded in reaction to her learning about all of the tragedies of the fashion industry. And the mission of FTA is to remove barriers to sustainability and engage with the fashion ecosystem to drive collaboration, innovation, and impact. So like it's very impact oriented and community oriented. But just kind of this systems change project that has been underway for the last 20 years now, or I guess 19 years. And then it was in 2016, so 10 years ago, they shifted towards circularity as the main driver. So like sustainable fashion can be a bit more of an umbrella. And they still obviously will speak to all these different elements of sustainability, but circularity and specifically Canadian circularity has been kind of where we're honing in a bit the last little bit.
And is there something that you're working on that it's more urgent, or everything is at the same level, or...
It's like, we are definitely trying to push everything forward at the same time, because if we change one part of the system, but then another part isn't ready to react to it, it's just going to break down, and then all of the efforts would kind of be in vain. So it is for the most part, a very uniform approach. But based on all of our interviews and just kind of seeing what's going on in the system, the most urgent thing would be like a lack of infrastructure. So brands in a lot of cases are interested in using recycled materials, for example, in their clothing, but there's no infrastructure for it. So like the manufacturers aren't ready for it because it's not like compatible across the different modes of manufacturing, or perhaps a brand wants to implement a take-back program where they take back the garments when they're at the end of their life. But because Canada is so huge, it's very hard. There's not necessarily the infrastructure for gathering all of these garments up and repairing them or recycling them. So that's like the biggest issue right now that needs addressing and financing and research. But no one solution, unfortunately. It's just an ongoing progress.
And what Fashion Takes Action do actually like do on the ground? So do certain people go into the brands and I don't know, comme fait le lien entre la marque et la manufacture, ou propose d'autres alternatives comme les manufactures ne sont pas encore installées, parce que justement vous dites you're telling me that you're working a lot with the people. So what do you actually do with the people on the ground?
Yeah, great question. So one of the biggest things with the consortium is that the brand will join. So it would be not just one person from the brand, often it's a few people. And so we consult with them, we give them resources, and we try and make sure that any policy research we're doing or any perhaps research into infrastructure is actually inspired by what these people need. So that's kind of the on the ground work that we'll do, is mainly in this research side of things. So it would be working with a brand to ensure that the research we're doing is actually going to be used or useful, and that it's like compatible across the different stakeholders, because we're trying to kind of unify the language that they're using, unify the resources, because it can get really fragmented. And perhaps one actor is doing a bunch of research and innovation, but not communicating with another. So yeah, just trying to make sure that everyone is in the loop on what is happening is kind of the on the ground work that we're doing. And then my colleagues with their other programs, with My Clothes, My World, they're literally in schools teaching kids like about sustainability. And then Remode is an event that will be happening in Toronto soon, and then it'll be in Montreal in the fall, where they do a marketplace, they do talks, they do like clothing swaps. They're kind of hitting on all these different elements, also on the ground, not just theoretical, which I really admire with the work that they're doing.
Wow, I think every school should enter a class like that, because it's so important, and it's the kid that's gonna grow, so they need to change les choses qu'ils font dans la vie en général. So it's so important to tell the kids, hey, if you change some of your actions, maybe it's gonna change the world. So
yeah, it's so empowering. I love it.
Yeah. And did Remode came in Montreal like some years ago?
Yeah, just last year. So September of last year was the first time that they were in Montreal. It was a part of Montreal Fashion Week at SAT. And then next year we're just trying to find a venue and all of that jazz, but it should be there in the fall.
Wow, I'll be there. I missed the first one, but I'll go to the second one. And where do consumers actually have power, do you think?
I think consumers have all the power. Like, for example, if we were to boycott a brand, like the brand just can't keep running if everyone boycotted. But on a more like granular day-to-day scale, I think consumers have power in how they use the clothes, how they shop for the clothes, because I'm not even 100% against new clothes. Ideally, we would all just stop buying new. We would thrift, perhaps upcycle, buy locally. But if you are going to buy clothes from like a big brand, be intentional about it. Like, think about if this is something that you actually want. If it's not something you actually want, then, just hold off. You can always buy it on the resale market anyway. But also, how we're using and maintaining them. Because sometimes when you buy something, especially from fast fashion or something new, you just think it's going to last forever. But if you look at the care instructions and say, oh, this actually needs to be washed in cold water or hung up to dry, like all those really simple things, you can extend the life of the clothes. And I think that's a really great act of resistance, is keeping your clothes in your closet longer. Loving your clothes is like an act of resistance. If you actually have this connection to them, odds are you're going to keep them longer, or when you're done with it, hand it off to someone who you trust to also love it. I guess there's so many different levers that consumers can pull as well. It's just like demanding change from the brands that you like.
Mm-hmm. And I think this one is a big one, to just care about your clothes, because we have so many, and you need to buy one that you see and you're like, okay, this one, I could wear it every day. Maybe it's not like a big statement piece, or maybe you have some, but if you have a good t-shirt, a good pants, that's all you need. You're not, because when I was in Cégep, I was literally wearing something new every day. I was a bit crazy. And when a few years later, I realized that it's not really good to do that. So I'm proud of the work that I did. And now when I buy some clothes, I'm like, okay, this one, j'ai hâte d'aller le mettre et de le styler avec plein de différents pantalons, différents outfits, pour que ça soit un peu plus spécial.
Mm-hmm.
And if we talk a little bit more about community, culture, and hope, community seems central to everything you do. Why is community building essential to sustainability work?
I'll answer this in two ways, kind of the FTA way and also just a more general. So with Fashion Takes Action, I think the reason why community is so crucial is, as I was saying, it's just making sure that the products, it's not products, but the outputs of the work that we're doing are what people need, because it's very easy to put out research reports or guidelines and no one's going to use them. Like, they're not actually relevant to the people who are on the ground. Maybe the language is just completely different from what they use, or it's a tool that already exists, or it's a tool that, is just going to be cast aside. But the reason why we center community and collaboration is to make sure that the efforts that are going into this, because it's just a lot of passion and a lot of time and energy, are going to yield results that are making progress. And then additionally, kind of more broadly within the sustainability movement, would be, I think it's easy to get burnt out. It's easy to feel isolated. And I think feelings of isolation are like the biggest, this is going to sound like a conspiracy theory, but like that's what's causing a lot of these problems. We're then trying to find identity through consumption, through our clothes, or through investing money in makeup, or investing money in these things to just like try and signal that you're a part of something. But when you're a part of a community, I feel you don't feel the need to do that as much, because people know you. You don't necessarily have to signal to them who you are. So those are kind of the two ways why I feel like, community is central to everything we do, as both a way to avoid getting exhausted with this work, but also, to make sure that the work is catering to the right people and collaboratively produced.
And it's so funny because the other question is, in a moment of climate anxiety or burnout, how does Fashion Takes Action keep people engaged without guilt or fear?
Yeah, I think it's a great follow-up, because I think the approach is kind of reminding people of like the beauty and the tradition and the art and craft of textiles is a great way to kind of decenter all of the chaos and just like the overwhelm of the industry, because it has such a huge negative impact on the planet. But I think when we center the art and craft of it, it's a great way to just take a step back and be like, okay, fashion is beautiful. We all love fashion. We all love clothes. We're trying to preserve something. We're trying to not just like fight against something, but there's something we're fighting for. Mm-hmm. And I think this is kind of how we combat that. And additionally, always fighting against that isolation and the siloed efforts. So like by bringing people together, that's constantly combating the anxiety and the burnout, because perhaps one actor in the consortium or one actor in the team is feeling tired and just needs a break. Someone else will pick up the slack usually, because there's that relationship there, and you can identify when your community members are kind of tired and just like, okay, I need to step back. Someone can step up, and vice versa, holding people accountable to be like, hey, you've been working too hard. Maybe you need to just like take the weekend, don't think about it for a couple of days, and just holding each other accountable to not get burnt out is what I've seen also work really well within FTA.
And it is true that fashion it's an art. So we need to preserve it, and we need to dress every day. So it's important. But it's the way we're going to do it. And it's sure that the community, c'est vrai que ça aide de se sentir appuyé dans tous les angles. Fait que c'est, en tout cas, oui, c'est bien inspirant. C'est vrai. And if we talk a little bit more about creativity, what role do creativity, art, and imagination play in your approach at Fashion Takes Action?
Yeah, I think there's kind of two things that come to mind with this one. One is that when we do our remote events, so like the consumer-facing events, they have what they call the no new clothes market, which I just adore the concept. So they get a bunch of creatives, artists, upcyclers, resellers to come and exhibit their clothes and sell them. It's a market. But I find that such a great way just to center art and creativity in the movement, because we have enough clothes on the earth to dress the next 6 generations. So we can use creativity and keep the industry alive, keep making new clothes and innovating. But we don't need any new clothes. We can use existing textiles, we can rework, we can reimagine, think about how we dress differently. And I think, this marketplace really centers that. And then additionally, some kind of fun ways that we use creativity are when we're building our reports, we're kind of telling stories. So we're taking more academic, more perhaps inaccessible language and accessible concepts and making them accessible to people by narrativizing or just reworking the visuals or reworking the stories that are being told with these reports. And that's something that I really love as well that we can do. We keep all of the academic stuff intact and optional if people want to dive into that. But then, we're also making these reports or these infographics or Instagram posts that are enticing people into the world without being too overwhelming. Because if you just throw a report at someone on there, they're just going to be like, this is
too much
over my head. I don't want to read this. But you can entice them in, and they'll end up reading the report if you do it kind of in a creative way.
That's so true. And what do you think happens when movements lose creativity?
Yeah, this was one of the first things in my sustainability journey that got me super, super hooked, was the concept that a broken clock is right twice a day. And that's what a lot of climate organizations have become. They used to be really great and innovative, but they've lost that creativity. And now they just kind of survive on sometimes being right, sometimes working. But if you want to actually make change, you have to be constantly evolving, reacting to the feedback of your community, engaging with the people who are on the ground, and ensuring, you're always changing, because the climate's always changing, the industry's always changing. And to be uncreative and just get really fixed on one way of working, then you're going to put all your resources into something and it's just going to maybe have the illusion of working, but it probably won't unless you've actually been innovating and changing.
And if we talk about a bit of vision, when you imagine the future of Fashion Takes Action is working toward, what does it look like?
Yeah, I know that my vision's a little bit probably different, but what I see for the future of textiles in Canada is people producing a bit more locally, perhaps knowing the tailor in their community who will tailor the clothes that they bought secondhand to fit them like a glove. They'll perhaps mend for their friends, or they'll upcycle their own clothes. I kind of picture this solar punk degrowth future For Canada, I think we have a lot of capacity for this because of the nature of our country. But I just picture a lot more like local. It doesn't even need to be like on a small scale. It could be just like nationally, we're producing more clothes within the country, because right now manufacturing is very low. And I think if we were manufacturing it domestically, odds are we'd be less likely to exploit the workers, less likely to exploit the environment. So I just picture a lot more, Canadian fashion. It doesn't have to look like moose or like, the kind of traditional Canadian clothing that you might
Les bûcherons.
Associate with it. Yeah, exactly. But I think we could create our own style, and I think it'd be really fun to see what that is.
And I think in Montreal, I'm so proud to live here because we have so many different designers and creators. Yeah, and it's so beautiful. And in my circle, I know that a lot of people do like upcycling or switch and ditch or things like that. So I really hope that it's going to be, in all Montreal or in Canada, because I love your vision, and it would be so nice to do more fashion here. And I know it's a budget for the government, but I think it would be important to invest in that and maybe cut on some other things, because it's a big industry, and if we do not change it, there's going to be a bit of problems.
Yeah, and I think like supporting those small businesses with like financial incentives from policy, but also like the big brands will not change unless either there was a huge paradigm shift and everyone was demanding that they change their ways, or if it comes top down. But like they're not going to, I don't think, make the decision on their own. Some brands definitely are, and proud of them, but we need either top down or bottom up somehow to make that pressure on them.
And what gives you hope right now in the fashion industry?
Like exactly what you said. I think when I was living in Montreal, just seeing all of the artists, like it's just like coming out of the woodwork. Like everyone is upcycling or interested in alternative fashion, the thrifting culture. Like that gives me so much hope. I mean, it's not just localized to Montreal. Like I think across the country, people are interested in thrifting more. So that gives me hope that people aren't relying necessarily on the big brands anymore to express themselves. They're seeing these alternatives. And that gives me hope for sure.
I think my hope for, the future in Montreal would be to be more invested in faire de la publicité pour notre mode montréalaise. Because like I said, we have so many brands, so many designers, creators, and we have like one fashion week that it's starting to be bigger, but there's not a lot of people that know that we have a fashion week. Like the people in the industry, yes, but some other people, like j'ai plusieurs amis qui savent même pas qu'on a une fashion week à Montréal et qu'il y a des événements partout.
Yeah.
So we should publicize it more and maybe have some free event. I don't know. We have already, but je pense que ça devrait être quelque chose de un peu plus gros et de justement mettre de l'avant ces marques qui ne sont pas connues. And that's why I do what I do, because I want to put the brand in front, because it's so important to see what we do in Montreal and encourage these people. And you're going to be so more unique, so more proud to wear what you have, because you encourage those little brands. So I hope in Montreal for the 2026, 2027, we're going to put fashion, in front and be proud of being Montrealers, Canadian, Quebecers. And if a listener wants to support Fashion Takes Action, where should they start?
I think, two places. One would be as a part of the CCTC, we did this project called Love Your Clothes. And Love Your Clothes is a website. It's all citizen-facing resources on how you can engage with the 7 R's of fashion. So like reuse, repair, recycling, like it has all these different resources on this one website. So checking out Love Your Clothes. We're also working on a podcast, but it's like it's kind of like later this year, but that kind of project is evolving and we're starting to branch out a bit more. So there's that, but then also the remote events. So if anyone listening is in Toronto, it'll be on April 19th at the Brickworks. and then in Montreal in the fall. So that'll also be a fun way to engage with FTA.
Yay. Maybe I will do a trip in Toronto. Why not?
Who knows?
Who knows? Je vais le dire en français, ça va être mieux expliqué. Vous avez dit que vous faites quand même justement des rapports. Où est-ce qu'on peut trouver ces rapports ou ces petites capsules pour justement plus s'informer?
Juste sur le site web de Fashion Takes Action, on a un endroit pour visiter tous les ressources citoyennes. C'est juste sur le site.
Parfait. Donc, on va sur le site web et on peut tout apprendre. And we want to talk a little bit more about Solacene. I don't know if I pronounce it well.
No, that's perfect.
Okay,
actually,
yes.
I've heard every pronunciation, so...
Yes,
Solacene,
I practiced. Yeah. I was like, okay. Yeah, so could you talk just a little bit more about what you do with your own projects?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, this is exciting because I haven't talked about it in a while. So, okay, where do I start? We're basically working on this model of engagement with citizens that is centering community. We are trying to inspire people to combat the loneliness epidemic by coming together mainly over art, because I think it's a great gateway. It's hard to talk about art. So like a movie club or a book club or a painting night, an exhibit, picture like these types of events. It's hard to like be in the presence of art and not get political or not get talking about these deeper things, but I don't want it to be like preachy. So it's just opening up these spaces, being like, come to the book club, come to this exhibit. And then if the conversation goes that way, like it's kind of a sneaky way of trying to get people to engage with these concepts. But we're basically working on a model to host these sorts of events. And then once we're back in Montreal, we have a series of events planned. So we're going to do weekend intensives in September and October, and then a retreat probably in November for people in the industry to come out to. It'll be just like probably like an hour outside of Montreal. We'll all drive out together, spend some time in nature, do some yoga, do some art, and just kind of network and build out our strategies in the comfort of, you know, like a little chalet weekend. Oh. So those are kind of our flagship events we have planned for when we're back in the city. And then we'll kind of go from there. The dream would be to open up somewhere permanent in Montreal, right off Changement. Like, oh, I can picture it now.
Yeah.
But like
everyone,
having a little hub, yeah, for people to exhibit their art or to come and do like art residencies. Like, yeah, just a little community space. Yeah, that's kind of the evolution.
Wow.
I have an Instagram. I need to post on there more. I think I'm going to start trying to because it's getting closer.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. And I think people in Montreal would be so interested about this project because we have a lot of artists too. And I know that I have some friends that do arts and they don't really know where to put them, or I'm not really aware of that. I'm more into like theater and fashion and everything. But yeah, I think it's so nice to go into a little gallery. I went in Paris in October. And I thought it was so nice to just go into a place and it's just a little gallery when you can observe some art, talk to people. And I think your project is so interesting to do little
thank you.
Events like that where you can meet, because I think that's what's missing before the pandemic. We usually, je sais pas, on dirait que j'avais l'impression que les gens parlaient un peu plus ou se rencontraient plus.
Yeah.
And now, after the pandemic, I think that people are more shy or not, ils n'ont pas l'énergie ou la patience d'aller voir les gens. Donc, je trouve que, en tout cas, moi, I would really be, je serais très partante de participer à ces événements because it seems so really nice.
Yeah, we did like a couple summers ago. We tried, this is kind of where I was born out of, but we did a climate circles series. So we'd meet in Jean Mance every week and have a different artist or academic come and share their work. And it was just like a little casual, like just in the park, but then people would just see us and be like, oh, what are you doing? And then it was just a great way to kind of meet new people. And literally just from being in the park, we met, I think like 3 or 4 really great connections who we like ended up working together on events in the future, or they came and spoke. It's just like it was really inspiring to see the power of just gathering and sharing ideas. Like, it's pretty basic, but yeah, it was definitely lost during the pandemic. So trying to get it back a little bit.
And we can see all your projects on your Instagram, or you also have a website?
We have an Instagram. We also have a website. Yeah, either place. It's just Solacene, SOLACENE on both.
So in the like end of summer and commencing of autumn, they're going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So everyone watch this.
Stay tuned.
It's gonna be big. Yeah. And for your little brand, what is the style of your clothes and les matières que tu utilises?
It's all upcycled, so it's all dead stock fabric or curtains or bed sheets. Like, it's a mix, but my goal is to make it not look like the traditional upcycled DIY kind of vibe. I love that, but I just think there's lots of people doing it. So it's ready to wear, kind of modular, or modular isn't the word, but my goal is just to never like have something be like really tight. And like, if you change size, like, it's not going to fit you. So it's a lot of like gilets that like tie on the sides, dresses that are, just like a bit more flowy, so that you can kind of, like, we all fluctuate in size. So it ended up being very girly, which was not my intention. I wanted it to be like androgynous, but then that's just how it came out. And I was like, I got to roll with it. But my kind of new vision for it is to hopefully get a bit more into that like androgynous kind of energy, because I just think when it's really polarizing, because our styles change, if you invest in a piece, I'd like you to be able to like, use it a bit more, but it not be boring. So like, it'll be interesting in the silhouette or what have you. Maybe that's not a good answer, but it's trying to be versatile. It's kind of the vibe, but versatile but not boring is the energy.
Je pense aussi que les gens aiment ça de plus en plus, là, les pièces versatiles et un peu intemporelles aussi, que tu peux les mettre un peu avec tout. So I think it's going to work. A lot of good projects on the road. I love it.
Yeah. She never sleeps.
Yeah, that's what you do when you're un travailleur autonome, always. And it's so, because sometimes you just want to shut your head off and do not work, but you have always some projects that you want to do and create. So it's so motivating, but sometimes I'm like, shh, just sleep and don't think about it.
Yeah, like I'm training to do the marathon in October. I'll be like running for like 10, 15, 20, and then I'm just like, it's just so much time for you to think, and then I get home and I need to work because I have so many ideas.
Sometimes when I come back from work at my house, my boyfriend, I'm taking off my iPad to work again, and my boyfriend is like, no, you're not going to work again. And I'm like, okay. So I'm closing my iPad. I'm like, time off.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have one message you'd love listeners to walk away with after this conversation, what would it be?
Okay, good question. Without being too dramatic, I would say, like, you are beautiful and your clothes don't define you. But like, since you are not allowed to go out naked, like, you have to wear clothes, might as well like make a statement with your clothes and make them count. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of my message.
And je te l'ai pas demandé tantôt, mais do you think beauty can be a form of resistance?
100%. Yeah. I think especially with like the way that fast fashion designs their pieces, it steals from artists. It is boring and uniform sometimes. And I think creating beauty with your clothes and putting effort into how you're communicating that, like, in that way, can be a huge act of resistance, especially if you are going against norms. I think it's a great way to combat stereotypes just by how you're dressing. Yeah, 100%. That's one of those things that interests me a lot about it.
Yeah, on a juste besoin de se faire confiance et de se laisser aller.
Yeah.
And if we close with a little section about solutions and empowerment, What are three simple actions people can take today to have a real impact? We talk a little bit about regarder les étiquettes des vêtements pour le nettoyage, but what be some other actions?
And some other ones, I would say trying a no-buy challenge. That was really transformative for me, to try and go a month, a year with buying no new clothes, because you get really creative with what's already in your closet. You have to mend those pieces that maybe wear out during the year. It's a great challenge. I would encourage anyone to do it. Or you could do no buy new, like you only buy things secondhand or borrow or swap. Like that's another alternative. I guess another challenge that I love is like learning a skill. So like learn how to mend a button. You don't need to learn everything. Learn how to like take in a hem or take out a hem, because then you can like transfer that skills with your friends. So it's like, I know how to fix a button. They know how to hem a pant, and then you can swap and like swap skills. And I think that's a really great way to build community, but also, build resistance to the system, because then you're not relying on anyone else except for the people that you love and care about and know.
Yeah, that's so true. And c'est vrai que I have a sewing machine at my house, and it's been so long que j'ai pas fait de la couture, and I want to start again this year. So I think it's gonna be my goal to start again and do some little things, upcycling things. You motivated me to do it again.
It's my influencer era. I'm like influencing people.
I love it.
Yeah.
And how can people support sustainable fashion beyond just buying better?
I think there's so many industries around sustainable fashion. So like going to a local tailor is a great way to support it. What else? Like if you're interested in a career, trying to align it with sustainability in general. So like finding, like maybe you want to work in some kind of tech job, finding one that aligns with sustainability, I think can be really great. Because then you're kind of putting all your hours in the day towards the cause. Obviously that's like a bigger one. What else? Like hosting a swap with your friends. I think like normalizing sustainable fashion, because it just takes like one person in the friend group or one person in the family to be like, yeah, this is thrifted, or like, yeah, I mended this and there was a hole here before, for people to not think it's weird or like strange anymore. So just kind of normalizing it. Like I used to host little swaps at my apartment, which didn't go the best because me and my friends all had completely different styles. So it was just like we had to get creative with the swapping, but just like things like that, little arts and crafts nights. I think one other way would be like decentering fashion from socializing. I always think of like the plight of the going out top. People are like, oh, it's my going out top. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Yeah. Like just, I don't know, decentering it. Be like, we're going out, we're going to have fun, wear whatever. Like I've worn this outfit going out to yoga, obviously to work. Like there's just so many different, I don't know, decenter fashion, I guess.
That's so true. And even like for Christmas, or it's always like, oh, I need to go buy my Christmas fit. And I'm like, well, you don't have like something at your house that's chic, or so that's so true, to not put event, but more like see the clothes to so many potential events. Yeah, juste ouvrir la bulle et que tout peut être mis pour tout.
Just get like a bandana, like you can just
little hair up. Yeah. That's so true. And do you know, or do you have a recommendation about a sustainable brand or an initiative other than Fashion Takes Action that you love right now?
Yeah, there's two, I'll say. So Core Fabrics, they're a dead stock fabric company in Montreal. And basically they take fabric from companies who aren't using it anymore, because often they'll order too much or there's just like ends of rolls, and they sell it to small designers or just like local, like people who are interested in sewing. And they're doing great work. They're also like working on a lot of resources for small businesses and for people to get more sustainable, and it's local. So I love Core Fabrics. And then I'll plug my friend's brand. They have a brand called Star Scraps, and they upcycle clothes, and it's just like the most fun upcycled pieces you've ever seen. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm their friend, but they do really great work, and I would suggest checking them out as well.
Nice. And do you have a personal habit you've changed that had a bigger impact than you expected?
Yeah, I think what comes to mind was like kind of romanticizing worn out clothes. Obviously, that's like a privilege to be able to do, but seeing like my grandparents and great grandparents having these rugs in their homes that were made out of old clothing, it was just like, okay, so this clothes were like, you bought the new fabric, you sewed the dress, then you turned the dress into kids' clothing, and then it was play clothes, then rags, and then a rug. Like, it's just like you extend the life of these pieces. And I think romanticizing that and getting creative with it has really changed my whole view on clothes, I suppose, is thinking about the life to the very end until it's literally just like a thread and you can't use it anymore. Like when you buy something, you're thinking about all of those different steps it will either go through or it'll end up in the garbage. Which one do you want, kind of thing?
That's I think my mother inspired me a lot with that, because her clothes, she keep them like for years. I think she still have some clothes that she was wearing when she was 20 years old. And that when I was young, I was like, oh my God, that's so old. But now I think it's so fun to have some pieces that are still brand new. It seems like she never like wear them. So it's so nice. And when the clothes were like ripped or not good enough to wear, she would do some little square to des guenilles, des petits linges à vaisselle.
Yeah.
And I think it's just some little things that I saw when I was young, and I was like, c'est juste normal. Et c'est vrai que ça sert à rien de jeter le morceau. You can do so much other thing like rugs that I'm shocked. I didn't know that rugs could be, really nice. And for our last segment, we have another tradition where l'invité nous propose a little, I'm going to tell it in French, un petit défi éco-mode. So we had, so for the second season, we had the first, notre première invitée a donné comme défi de faire un ménage de la garde-robe. Big reset. The second one a invité les gens à essayer de trouver de nouvelles brands, de tester, d'aller voir de nouvelles entreprises. And 2 weeks ago, someone proposed to have a year or 6 months without shopping. So like you said earlier. And your turn, Alicia. What would be your
défi?
Your défi éco-mode?
I think I'll say learn a skill. Like learn how to mend something, sew something. That'll be my challenge. Perfect. For people.
So for the next 2 weeks, people, you're gonna learn a new challenge. Sew or stitch, upcycling. Good.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Alicia. Merci pour cette belle conversation vraiment riche et inspirante. J'ai envie d'aller créer, j'ai envie d'aller parler aux gens. On dirait que ça m'a remotivé de parler avec toi, même d'aller écouter ton podcast, d'aller voir le Instagram de Solacène, de Fashion Takes Action, lire un peu les documents. Je trouve qu'on a vraiment des belles initiatives au Canada, au Québec, puis c'est ça. Comme j'ai dit, je suis vraiment fière d'être ici, puis de pouvoir voir tout ça grandir, puis de participer un tout petit peu. Mais voilà, si jamais les auditeurs, vous avez aimé cet épisode, ça vous a donné envie d'en apprendre un peu plus, je vous invite aussi à aller découvrir Fashion Takes Action, et de pas hésiter à aller voir les projets de Alicia cet été au Parc Jeanne-Mance. Puis comme ça, on peut donner suite aux initiatives, puis juste s'informer. Je pense que c'est ça l'important aussi de nos jours. Fait que c'est ça. Se rappeler que le changement, ça passe aussi par l'éducation, la communauté et bien sûr l'imagination et la créativité. Fait que Voilà. Repenser la mode, c'est pas seulement consommer autrement. Je pense que c'est aussi repenser nos systèmes, nos valeurs, notre manière d'habiter le monde. Alors, merci beaucoup pour ta générosité, Alicia. C'était vraiment une belle
Merci à
discussion.
toi.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde d'avoir encore été présent cette semaine pour ce nouvel épisode. On se retrouve très bientôt déjà pour un prochain épisode où on va discuter encore un petit peu de vintage, mais beaucoup aussi de conseils de stylisme et encore de mode bien inspirantes. Donc voilà, on se retrouve dans 2 semaines. Ciao!